All right, we are live for another episode of Real Estate Junkies Podcast. Join us for this exclusive interview with Tim Harris as we dive deep into pivoting rules for the new market. Tim, alongside his wife Julie, has been a leader in the real estate industry for over 2 decades and transitioning from top producing agents to becoming the nation's most sought after real estate coaches. In this episode, Tim will share with us essential strategies and practical steps to help real estate agents thrive in today's shifting market. You will discover how to diversify your lead generation to building multiple streams of income to ensure success no matter what the market brings. So you do not want to miss out on this chance to learn from one of the industry's best. Tim, it's a pleasure to finally have you here. I know we had to reschedule in the past, so it's welcome to the podcast, brother.
Yeah. It's that introduction almost sounds like it was written by ChatGPT.
It is for sure. Yeah. Um, can you take us back to the early days of your real estate career? What motivated you and Julie to transition from top producing agents to becoming real estate coaches after?
So the early days, but not the earliest days. Well, so Julie and I sold over 100 homes our first year in the business, and we went on to sell between 100 and 200 homes per year for about 10 years. And we had a real estate team, did all these things. And we were at a Howard Brinton conference. Julie and I were Howard Brinton stars, and he had just decided that he wanted to basically start offering coaching. And Julie and I were in the back of the room. I don't remember how many agents there were there, thousands. And Howard, was this wonderful guy, and he's passed, but I'm thinking about actually that moment when I originally saw him pitch coaching basically for the first time. So he was about to go on break, and he said, we're thinking about doing this coaching thing, and this is what it's going to be, and da 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 da. And if you're interested, remember it's about to go on break. If you're interested, just toss your business card up on stage, and we'll collect those, and we'll follow up with you. And then remember, I was in the back. Well, I was in the back of the room. The stage was in front of me. So okay, we're on break. See everyone in a half hour, whatever. And then basically the whole room, thousands of people stood in line to toss their cards up on stage. And I thought to myself, what did I just witness? Right? I mean, I just witnessed the dawn of something new in the real estate industry. And to my knowledge, no one's ever, there were other, Mike Ferry was offered coaching as well. And I'm not sure who really did it first, but fact is that I saw, how much success you can have. Now, that was it. That was the end of it. Then in the hallway, people asked Julie and I if we were coaching. And I said, we talked to dozens of people. And we kept on saying, no. I don't know what coaching is. I'd never been coached before. I had no clue. I wasn't an athlete. I mean, I had no idea. And so eventually somebody came up to me and they said, I'll pay you X amount of money per month to coach me. To which I said, okay, that sounds good. And then from there, our coaching business took off, and our coaching business, from our notoriety from having sold so many houses, and we'd run a bunch of awards. And this was actually, the internet didn't come online until consumer internet until 1996. And Julie and I did our first transaction before that. So we'd been successful back when, to be an influencer in real estate was really freaking hard, because there was National Association of Realtors magazine, maybe there's some other things, but there was no YouTube, there was no Instagram, there was no nothing. So we are on covers of magazines.
Creating influence was tough.
Dude, it was really tough. But when you had influence, it was no bullshit influence. You actually had influence because you had been fully vetted, not because you just said you were an influencer. It's totally different than it is now. I mean, some of the people in the real estate coaching space have never sold real estate before, which is, to this day, I'll never understand why an agent would hire someone that never sold real estate before to be their coach. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, that's what happened. And then our coaching business took off to the point where it was crazy. Honestly, this was back in the late 90s, and we had to make a decision what we were going to do. And Julie and I had another business that we sold prior to getting into real estate. So I kind of knew how that process worked. And we just decided to basically, go whole hog into real estate or into coaching. I'm glad we did. And the thing ultimately that I disliked about selling real estate was coaching is so much more like real estate is a beautiful thing, because once you get good at it, it's like working at the post office. It's the same thing every day. And once you learn your scripts and you have your systems down, there's not a lot of, there's occasional, people that show up in your life that cause drama. But for the most part, when you're good at lead generation, good at pre-qualifying, good at presenting, good at actually doing the functions of it, it's very consistent, very good business. But Julie and I mean, at that time I was, in my late 20s, and Julie was too. And we just wanted a bigger challenge, honestly.
Yeah.
And we saw what coaching could be. We were excited about the idea of being able to learn something new. And I mean, if I knew then what I know now, like, to become a really great coach is so much harder than to be a great real estate agent. To sell 100 houses a year is easier than coaching, say, 40 to 50 agents a week. There's no comparison because yeah, I mean, there's no comparison. So like people think, oh, I'm going to retire from real estate and I'm going to become a real estate coach. And I'm like, I get these calls and emails occasionally. I'm like, why? What is it that you think is going to happen? And, so I personally,
are you on crack?
Yeah, well, no, yeah, I mean, because to be really good at anything, not just what I do, but anything, you have to have done it a billion times, or the market sorts you out really fast. And the price that you're going to be able to command is going to be commensurate with the value that you deliver, right? So Julie and I have done over 100,000 paid one-on-one coaching calls. I'm sure there might be one or two people that have done more than that in the country, specifically for real estate agents.
It's amazing.
There has to be, but I'm not sure that there is. I mean, we did, for years, Julie and I were doing personally, we had sometimes we had 60 clients, and we were doing coaching starting at 5 a.m. every morning. And we did it. And over time, you get, if you're really dedicated, you're really focused on trying to help the person that's paying you, you get really good at it. And you get good at helping people with all different varieties of education, IQ, backgrounds, ages, all these things. And it really was more in alignment. Ultimately, we found it to be massively more personally fulfilling and financially rewarding. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, but anyway, that's what brought us to this. And then, but since then, I mean, that was a long time ago. But since then, coaching has morphed into a lot of other different little things. And I think the coaching industry right now, at least in our industry, in the real estate industry, is morphing into something else as we speak, because it's oversaturated. There's just too many. Everyone and their brother calls themselves a real estate coach, and people that are your age, you don't know what a real estate coach is versus somebody who's training. I mean, you don't. And so people are getting into this industry and they're listening to all the same things said over and over again. So all these Gary Vaynerchuk wannabes, build your brand, do marketing, do branding, do all these things. It's all the same. But no one's emphasizing skills. Those things all have their value and their purpose, but it's not ever going to replace knowing how to have meaningful conversations with folks in a way that's going to, result in a real estate transaction. That whole, anyway, I could ramble forever, obviously. I get paid to ramble, so I'm good at it.
So your first book, what is it? 0 to 10 million in a year?
Yeah. That was fun too.
That sold out in like 27 days.
Yeah.
How did that success shape your journey towards becoming top real estate coach? Like, did that have an effect?
Well, that was before we became coaches. So what happened was Remax actually had us. So Julie and I were with Remax, and we won some big award with the National Association of Realtors for having sold 100 houses in our first full year in real estate. And Remax itself and then Remax brokers started flying us to their regions and their offices to speak to their organizations. And so, we essentially put together a book. I say book with air quotes because it was basically a big 3-ring binder. And we printed a whole bunch of those, and literally we sold them out and almost instantaneously sold them out after I got our first event. And then we never really truly got around to republishing that book, because it wasn't really a book. It was more of a manual. But the book that we published in 5 years ago, Harris Rules, that encompasses everything that was originally in 0 to 10 million 1 year, and basically on steroids. So the book, in that, that's available everywhere. Barnes and Noble, you can get it at airports, everywhere. It's from what we're told, Book Scan, I guess is the only way I'd know. It's the second best selling book for real estate agents ever written. Yeah.
Amazing. And why, what would you say some of the key moments that helped you and Julie grow your coaching business? Like, when did you know, like, hey, this is it, like, we are going to do this for the rest of our lives?
ChatGPT really did a good job for you on these questions. We listen, we use ChatGPT for everything nowadays. If you're not using ChatGPT, you are crazy. Have you really explored it, like gotten into it, and like where you say you ask it a question, it gives you an answer, and then you say, "Oh, you can do better. Drill down, give me more detail," and then it actually can. Have you messed around with it like that?
Oh, yeah. No, we use custom GPT. We use bots built out of custom GPT. So we use high level. So we have built out six custom bots based on custom GPTs. So yeah.
Well, tell me how I can make a bot that basically can take all the transcripts from all of our past. We have like 7,000 past podcasts, and how I can basically you see where I'm going with that, and how we can actually
build it. You can build a coach out of it. You could build a coach.
That's what I want to do. I've tried to do it, and I've hired people to do it, but the result that they churn out sucks. But I mean,
no, we'll talk. We could get on a call, and I can show you how it's done. Like Tony Robbins has done it. It's sure it's for people who are like really delve into it over the last 1 year now, since not even 1 year, actually less. It seems like so long, but it's just time is just. I guess I feel like with AI right now, you could do so much. Feels like 1 month feels like you got like 1 year worth of stuff done. Tell me.
Your question was boring. What we're talking about now is going to be more interesting in your audience. Nobody cares about the genesis of our coaching business because you're okay. So let's talk about this because you're touching on something. All right. So do you think it's possible that like now every single real estate agent is going to be able to be a real estate influencer and use basically, AI to create scripts that then basically create the whole thing? Well, you tell me why that won't happen, and to the point where it's indistinguishable that I'm not like you get what I'm getting at.
We are running an experiment right now, and it's probably going to go in lines with what you're talking about. We're running an experiment right now. I started a YouTube channel last year in November when ChatGPT came out, and I really like manually writing up scripts, and it wasn't never my thing. I was like, I just dreaded, like I didn't want to do it. And then like 1 month ago, exactly about like less than 1 month ago, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it because I have helped a lot of agents in our academy do the whole AI YouTube thing. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do it as for real estate agents, right? So we started posting videos. Like every 3 days we post a video, and it's AI clone of me, right? So it's not even me. It's AI clone that's speaking stuff that ChatGPT gave, right? So the whole, and it doesn't sound like ChatGPT. Obviously, if you know how to use ChatGPT, you can prompt it to sound like you. So in 1 month, we got 90 something subscribers right now. We have over 15,000 views, over like 80 hours of watch time. And it's crazy.
But doesn't that, and I've seen that stuff because I've been paying attention too, because I think it's incredible, honestly. Well, it's because my fantasy is basically so Julie and I won't have to do so many podcasts because we do a podcast a day, that takes a lot of time between writing it and recording it and all, staff members, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But my fantasy is like, if I could have AI, Tim and Julie start churning out podcasts using our past podcasts as reference, that'd be stellar. Yeah. But here's where my mind goes. There's so many agents that have gotten into the business since really 2008, who they've only been told to brand, market, build your team, buy your leads, buy your everything else. And if the distinguishing feature was that me because of YouTube and social media, and that's what, and agents have been spending so much time on that pursuit of being influencers. What if all of a sudden, with a snap of the fingers and a credit card number, someone could basically emulate everything they've already done and have AI churning out the same volume of content? So you tell me that unique selling proposition in the marketplace for those agents who have spent their entire career so far trying to be influencers, it's eviscerated. Am I right?
Yeah, it would be. It's gonna be a whole new economy for sure. It's gonna be a whole new level of like trying to differentiate yourself from others, right? Like for example, one of the reasons why we are having so success in YouTube is because what we are doing is other coaches that have been dropping YouTube videos for years, we're just taking their best videos and just replicating them, right? Like, so it's so much easier to be able to do that, like whatever is working in the marketplace. So agents out there who have done this for years to build their brand, you could just replicate it like moments of time, right? You don't need years, you don't need months, you don't need weeks, you don't need days, you need
It
just
makes
hours.
total sense. I mean, Julie and I wrestle. So Julie writes for Housing Wire. She writes for Vetted. She writes for like 6 different state publications. Sometimes they send her an article, what they wanted to write. This is a topic. And all they've done is they've gone online. Like we get these spreadsheets from Housing Wire and they'll go online. They do such a brilliant job of finding out what agents are opening, what they're clicking, what the top articles are. And they'll say, hey, Julie, this is what people are really, this is in the zeitgeist. And so would you write a version of that in your voice? And that's basically what you just described. I mean, because that's the easy button. And but what's really it is fascinating but the problem is that just creates an echo chamber of people saying the same thing over and over.
You gotta niche down. You gotta have a specific audience. You gotta talk to that specific person that's for you, right? You can't just speak to the whole population and then you're just making noise just like everyone else, right? But if you're talking to that specific person, and through my like coaching programs and mastermind groups that I have been part of, like I coached under Russell Brunson for 2 years, and it was something that I learned, and it's really helped me in my marketing. You're like a godfather to me when it comes to coaching, right? And like I only started 3 years ago, and the reason why I got traction, we have a high ticket coaching program, and we do over, I don't know, multiples, like we're over 600,000 a year now in income from our coaching business. And it was because I just picked that person that's just like me, right? Like in the marketplace, that agent that's just like me. So, I truly believe in the concept that build a niche so small that only you fit in it, right? So when I'm speaking in that language, I know me better than anyone else. So when I'm speaking in that language, I know what the problems I had when I started in real estate. I know what the problems I had when I started a team. I know what the problems I had when it came to getting off of Zillow and building my own Zillow, right? So when I'm speaking in that language, that person's feeling like, oh my God, he's talking to me, right? So when it comes to like differentiating or like standing out from the noise, I think that it will come down to that. Sure, we are still very early with AI. Not everyone's doing it. People can't even wrap their heads around it. So if you start just using it right now, you will create so much content that you will already keep yourself apart. But over time, market's gonna catch up, right? No one did with videos 5 years ago. Not everyone's on videos, right? No one's doing AI right now, but 5 months from now, everyone's going to do it. There'll be easier and easier tools that will come about, right? Opus Clip, HeyGen, right? Like these tools are just the beginning, right? There will be so much more. Like the AI is just what we have, all the tools that we have. This is just the beginning. Like
what will be the ultimate differentiator for a successful real estate agent?
I would say branding, like only you fit in it, right? Like create a brand that it looks just only like you, and no one can duplicate it.
Can we argue all of this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna tell you a true story. Remember, I'm gonna probably before you were born, which is embarrassing. Julie and I are at the gym. Julie and I are at the gym last night, and we were talking to a friend. The guy's a trainer, and he's basically an Olympic athlete. Anyway, he was saying, today's my birthday. I'm 34, and Julie and I have our 33rd wedding anniversary on Saturday, this coming Saturday. And so we just looked at each other and kind of laughed that he was 1 when we were married. But here's the thing. So I'm going to argue, because I can argue what you just said. And I'm also, because I understand completely the power of branding and marketing. And I also understand the importance of being a proactive lead generator. So I'm going to give you 2 sides. Okay. And this is, again, goes to something that drives me crazy about the real estate industry, is because no one listens to both sides, because the financial incentives are for people not to listen to what I'm about to say. Because there's so many people, billions and billions of dollars are being spent by agents every year on marketing and branding. And so there's no financial incentive for people to say what I'm about to say, but also to reinforce what I'm about to say. Okay. So here it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to start out with the story. So Julie and I are back in Howard, Britain, okay? And this was back in the 90s, okay? And branding and marketing and big teams were still a big thing then. That's when they really got started, right? So big teams and Keller Williams and all that. Julie and I were there all when all that stuff started. And I remember there was this brilliant presentation that was being put on by Hobbs and Herder. You might know Don Hobbs, really great guy at EXP, great guy. So Hobbs and Herder, they used to create some of the best, most beautiful marketing. They must have gone into the Rolls-Royce dealership and said, I want to do something better than what, Rolls-Royce does. It was that level. So good. All right. Hold on. My vacuum is about to start again. I got to send it to bed. Oh, pesky
Talking
vacuum.
about AI, right?
Yeah, exactly. I noticed it always starts when I'm on a Zoom. All right, so he did this. He had him up. Howard had him up on stage, and he was showing all this guy's marketing. He was doing it before and after. So here, I'll give you a profile of this guy. Again, I'm not trying to. In no way am I trying to be negative about anything I'm saying. I'm just telling you as I remember it. So the guy was a former dentist. He decided he wanted to get into real estate. He had some pictures taken. He had a black Mercedes. He used to wear black suits, and he looked like something from a Men in Black scenario, right? And so that was his marketing, and he was trying to market into a community that was mostly, families and, 3 kids and the whole thing. So he was a total mismatch. Yeah. And so Hobbs and Herder recognized that, and they redid all of his marketing. And all of his marketing, like I promise you, it was brilliant. Really heavy stock, and he spent tens of thousands of dollars on getting all this done. And it was, from a visual perspective, I can see where the money went.
Yeah.
So there was a break after that, and Howard was doing a little reception for the Howard Brenton stars. That guy wasn't a star, but he was a speaker, so he's in the room. And I remember exactly where it was. There was a window behind him, and I went up and talked to him, and he was standing there by himself. A couple people left. I started asking him questions. And all I wanted to know was basically, like, how long have you been doing the marketing? Hadn't been very long. Okay. Then I wanted to know what his skill set was. Like, well, you get a lead, what then? Like, how are you going to pre-qualify that lead? What are you going to do with this, that, and the other? I wasn't like quizzing him and trying to be a jerk. I was just trying to get in his head so we could find common ground and something to talk about, right? Because some of the greats in real estate came out of that organization, and some of the greatest scripts that are still being used came out of the organization. Dinah Kokoska, frankly, comes to mind. She was in that group, and I mean, she had so many great scripts. Any event, so he had nothing, and so okay, I didn't want to offend him, and so. In conversation and whatever. And I remember going up to him as a year later, and asking him about how his business was. And he had all these building my team type stories, but nothing really to run away. And then the year after that, I never saw him again, and he was working as somebody's assistant. And so why am I telling you this? Because all the branding and all the marketing isn't worth crap if you don't know actually how to handle any leads that you get from it. And I'll even go as far as to say this. The most of these CRMs, like I had a conversation the other day with a team leader who's struggling, and she has a huge team. I mean, I don't want to give too many details. Huge team. She's also at EXP, and she's got this enormous CRM with over 1,000 people in her CRM. And I was like saying, and she said, well, we got these heat maps. We can see where people are clicking, what they're doing, what their other things. And she goes, so I put all my people on calling all those leads, and so far nothing's coming from it. We're having conversations, but nothing. And then I said to her, I'll call her Bob. I say, so Bob, can you do me a favor and go in your MLS and tell me how many expired listings there were in the past 12 months? And there are an enormous number of expired listings. And I said, why don't you just call those people? Because you already know they have houses that they want to sell. Why are you spending so much time trying to motivate the unmotivated? Why don't you go after the people that have their hands in the air? They already said they want to have to sell a house. And the answer was she didn't know how to. And the answer was that she didn't know how to have her train her staff to, yeah. But that's just a skill set, deficit, which we can make up for. But the moral of the story is all the branding and all the marketing, no matter how niched you are, is ubiquitous when everyone else is doing the same thing. The only thing that differentiates you in the real estate marketplace. So branding and marketing is there to make you, mostly it's to reinforce proactive lead generation. So if you're calling in expired, for example, and you happen to have, and that seller happens to know who you are from your branding and marketing, you have a better chance of getting that listing, but it's no guarantee. And if you just have your branding and marketing, there's absolutely no guarantee. You will get first-time buyer leads with branding and marketing because they don't have previous relationships. But why would you spend so much of your life energy building a brand, looking for someone to call you, when you could just pick up the phone in any marketplace in the world and instantly build listing inventory? Yeah. And we've had new agents and seasoned agents. We're getting a lot of agents right now, team leaders and brokers that are tired of running unprofitable businesses and are tired of waiting for their unprofitable business models to ever work again. And they're saying, what the hell do I do? And what I do is I split up, I ask for their numbers. That's a
They
different.
don't know the numbers.
They don't know the numbers, right? That's exactly. But okay, so I pull it out of them. I use general numbers. How many deals did you do last year? Did 500. Okay. How many of those are buyers or sellers? You can get that from the MLS. Okay. Boom. Let's say it's 250. How much revenue did your buyer side make? Okay. And then we get to a little sticky because then we have to figure out what the profit was. There are 0 examples in really the last 18 months of me having this conversation where they're making any real true profit off the buyer side. And what they're doing, and they don't know it, is they're usually still involved, either directly involved or on the listing side of the business. So all of their profits coming from the listing side of the business, but in this market, their profits gotten shittier and shittier. Yeah. But the buyer side of the business has been sucking up the profit from the listing side of the business. And now they're making no profit from either side. So as soon as I do the math and I show them that, then I ask them, so how much money are you going to make this month? Well, I'm going to make $20,000. What's your average sale price and your average commission? It's $20,000. So you're telling me you could have sold one listing and made the same amount of money that you made net profit?
I said, so running a team to do that.
why don't you just you see how our message isn't popular, right? So why don't you could you take 10 listings in the next 30 days? If I give you a check for $1 million, taxes paid, you take 10 listings in the next 30 days. No referrals fees, you're not buying. Oh, sure, I could. Okay. So if you had 10 listings in the next 30 days and you maintained your new minimum standard was 10 listings at all times, how many of those listings would sell every month? Well, we have a really hot market. Well, let's just say it's a normal market. So 5 would sell per month. Do you agree? Agreed. Okay. So that means you'd make $50,000 a year or $50,000 a month, $600,000 a year with your average commission being $10,000. If you had 10 listings at all times, how much profit did you make out of your team selling 500 houses last year? 180 grand. I said, so explain to me why you're doing it. Help me understand. Well, I thought this is what I was supposed to do. I was at Keller Williams and they told me I was supposed to build a team. Well, in Gary's defense, Gary's original book was built around profit. You're not building a profitable business. You're doing something else. So those are the conversations that the industry is having right now. It turns out it's a hell of a lot easier to scale up than it is to scale down.
Egos cannot be scaled down, right? Once you build ego around your business.
I mean, ego is a Freudian term, which is kind of pseudoscience, but just for the sake of a shared language, that is the reason why, because they don't want to be perceived. It's the same reason that sometimes teams and brokers are apprehensive about going to EXP. They don't want to be perceived. They don't want to be perceived as having failed at what they were doing before. And it's not true. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, once people like I said, I could talk forever. I get paid for it.
I could see the passion in it. Like, look, I'll simplify it, right? Like, to me, branding and marketing, I guess, like, that is just thrown around so much, and a lot of people think it's the color schemes and the logo and the name of the business. The reason why we brand and market is to create a frictionless attraction system. So it's attraction, right? You create brand and marketing to create frictionless attraction to your business, but you have to have a conversion system. So you're converting those traffic, right? If you're not converting, so manually, first for new agents, it will be knowing the conversations, how to approach, based on the traffic, how to approach those leads, and how to initiate motivation in conversations and converting them into consultations, and what to do in the consultations to convert every single consultation into clients. And then lastly, you gotta have a retention system to create raving fan clients so that you get multiple deals out of every single transaction and multiple referrals, right? But anyway, like you have seen.
What's the ultimate way to differentiate yourself? So let's assume that you and I are trying to help an agent, right? And so what's the ultimate way of differentiating yourself in the marketplace? Is it your marketing and branding? Is that how you're going to differentiate yourself?
I would say obsessing over the person, the ideal client that you would want to attract yourself to, and adding value.
You're in the real estate business, not a Gary Vaynerchuk Jr. So with love and respect, there's only one way to truly differentiate yourself in the real estate industry. There is only one. It's whether you have the listing or not. That's it. If you have the listing, if you are a listing agent, you're focusing all your best energies every single day. I'll give you an example. Chuck Williamson, he sells real estate. He will hate me using him as an example. He will not go on my podcast because he doesn't want my attention. So I didn't just say his name, delete. And I won't even say how much he makes, but it's well into the 7 figures. You've never heard of him. He does no marketing and branding. He sells in a marketplace, which is a bedroom community of Charlotte, right? I'm not going to say where he sells. And he's one of the top, I believe he is one of the top individual income earners at eXp Realty for US, for domestic. No marketing and branding, doesn't spend it. He's younger than me, and I had to show him how to use Facebook. Okay. Yeah. To do an interview with him, or not to do an interview, but to get him on a closed mastermind I was running. And and if you look at every major agent on planet Earth, if you really want to differentiate yourself, focus all your best energies on being a listing agent. So if new agents are listing and or even an agent wants to wants to reboot yourself, if you really want to make it so you're starting to run a profitable business, learn how to actually proactively lead generate, which is prospect, directly to people who have already self-identified as saying, yes, I want to sell my damn house. And those are going to be FSBOs, expireds, and there's 20 other sources. And most, if not all, these lead sources are free. So you can spend all your nights and your weekends worrying about your brand and worrying about your logo and all these other things, or you can just learn how to actually go out and build listing inventory. Because here's what happens. The word brand is being, agents are being tricked into believing that the market will perceive them as successful if they have a brand, and then the market will then see them as successful and want to do business with them. That's a lie. Just is a lie. That's not true. The way you really want to differentiate yourself in the marketplace is earning the right to be a listing agent. You have to earn the right to be a listing agent. Then you have to perform in getting the home sold. And if you want to have a sustainable long-term real estate business, that's how you do it. There are no exceptions to that. You can spend all kinds of money on marketing and advertising to puff yourself up. He said ego. Okay. All those types of things. But if you really are getting this business to help people make money, focus on listings. Argue with that. You can't.
Yeah, no, for sure. There is you've been through multiple market shifts yourself, right? So
Four. Yeah, it sucks.
What is the most critical pivot rule, right? Like, let's call it pivot rule that agents should focus on in today's pivot.
When the going gets tough, the smart. You're supposed to say the rest of it. When the going gets tough, the smart. What is it?
I don't know.
Oh, well, it's the old saying is when the going gets tough, the smart get going. And I think the
smart get going.
Yeah, you've heard that. And it's like on every motivational poster since you're in kindergarten, right? But I thought about that for a long time, decades. I thought about that because I never quite understood what the hell that was supposed to mean. And so I realized when the going, and then through these market cycles, I've seen what the smart people do. They don't stick down and drill down and try to make something work that's not going to work. They leave every single market cycle. You see it, first of all, with investors, but imagine having imagine I'm looking at this field behind our property and I'm thinking to myself, if I were trying to dig a well and I finally get water and the water's working, I'm able to, generate water from it. And all of a sudden the well stops working. What do I do? Just keep on pumping at that well to try to get it to work. Oh, the well's going to start working another week. Oh, it's going to keep on working. It's going to come back. It's going to keep on working. All the while, basically all my fields and family die from, not having any water, right? Yeah. So when the going gets tough, the smart leave. Now, how does that translate? Because you've got to look, and you should do this. Every business owner needs to do this all the time. There's a great book, by the way. Profits aren't everything. They're the only thing. You should read that. It's trippy. But profits aren't everything. They're the only thing. Julie and I read that usually. Well, we listen to it usually once a year. And so the gist of that is if many brokers and agents right now have nonprofit, but they're not making any profit, and they're waiting for the clouds to clear and they're waiting for things to be like they were. And this is the reason I'm getting so many calls from teams and brokers. And they're not going to be the way they were, not because of the commission sharing lawsuits or all the other things. It's just the nature of the industry's changed. The nature of the costs have changed. Like if you're a broker and you're trying to build add agents to your brokerage, the first thing they're going to ask you is, give me leads, give me leads, give me leads. And then they're going to say, I want to, no commission. I want to keep all the money, And so for you to recruit agents to your little independent brokerage, you basically have to promise them the moon, stars, and the universe, and then you're not
while racing to the bottom.
Exactly. Exactly. And so the expectation from agents getting into the business isn't that they're going to proactively lead generate. They're going to join a team or a brokerage, and they're going to be spoon-fed leads. So those businesses worked for a while because, a whole bunch market conditions were different, but now they're not. And so when the going gets tough, smart leave. You have to learn how to, hit hard reset on your business finances. And like, for example, Julie and I we say this all the time on our podcast: before you spend money on anything, like validate that it works. Well, their website, their testimonials. Okay, that's good. That's a good start. But then I want you to ask the person who you're, giving your credit card number to, how long will it take for me to make a profit? And you determine what an acceptable profit is, 2 or 3x or whatever, on the money I'm spending. When I'm going to give you $1, when am I going to make 3 based on your actual experiences? And you'll notice that nobody's going to give you a straight answer on that. They're all going to say, well, we just depends on this and it depends on that. That's bullshit. Listen, if I'm going to spend money on what you're trying to sell me, I want to know what the return on investment is. Not if there's so many variables as to there's so many variables that you can't give me an honest answer. That means there is no answer, which means it doesn't work. So do not spend money on anything unless you are 100% positive it's going to put money in your pocket in 90 days or
Especially
less.
now, yeah.
Hell yeah, dude, but always. So this is these types of situations, the economies are when people, tighten their belts. You should tighten your belt when everybody else, it's Baron von Rothschild. He said, when this isn't the exact quote, this is the gist of it. When there's blood on the streets, buy real estate, So you got to kind of do the opposite of what other people are doing. Yeah. And the time to be smart is when everyone else is like spending money like a drunken sailor. That's when you should have pulled it in. But at this point, the hard questions to ask are whether or not that direct mail campaign you're doing, or whether that online campaign you're doing, trying to establish yourself as the market's mayor or whatever, are you actually making money from it? Oh, well, I was at Starbucks the other day and someone said they saw my ad. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Oh, people come up to me all the time and they say they got my postcard and they appreciate the pumpkin pie I dropped off. Okay, well, did you make money from it? No, I didn't. Well, then why are you doing it? I thought you were in business. Well, I'm building my brand. What's the point of building your brand? Well, it's because I want to list houses and make money. Why don't you just call sellers who are ready to list their house and have them list with you and make money and skip all this middle stuff?
Wow. Like if someone has you as their coach, there's no way they can fail. Like there is no way they could take this much beating and fail.
Well, this isn't a coaching call. Because if I did this on a coaching call, no one would pay me. But yeah. Well, but most at this point in our careers, Julie and I get people, our typical personal coaching client or somebody that's, net worth of, millions of dollars, and they've been in the business for a while. They're usually older than us, by a little bit, Generation X or older millennials or younger baby boomers type of thing, but they're established and they already intuitively know everything. They know what I'm saying is true because they probably wasted money on those things in the past. But younger people, what they don't realize is there are no new ideas. Like marketing and branding, it's all the same damn thing. It's called advertising. Okay. When you run an ad, you're running the ad because you're expecting to get a sale, generate revenue, right? Well, marketing and branding, I'm building something that's going to last forever and whatever. Okay, stop doing it. Stop doing it and watch what happens. You get nothing from it. It's the same as an ad. It's just advertising. Advertising, people. It's like life coaches. Life coaches spawn from psychologists that couldn't get clients, and so they started calling themselves life coaches. So this is just this, and like insurance people, this is years ago, started calling themselves financial planners. What? People selling life insurance are now financial planners, or people selling, securities, stocks and bonds are financial planners, all this stuff. So, I mean, at the end of the day, just ask yourself logically, if your vision for yourself is to help people make money, and the easiest way for you to do that is to become a listing agent. If you had 5 listings in some markets, each listing sells us 25 grand. If you had 5 listings at all times, you're going to have to beat the buyers off with a stick because you're going to have so many buyer leads. All the neighbors are going to see when you sold the house. You're going to have opportunities to meet every single A+ buyer that's in the marketplace that probably also has a house to sell, because they're going to be hitting you up, information on the house, going to your open house or whatever. Just focus on being a listing agent. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
control the economy. You control the market.
So why aren't other people saying what I just said? You tell me.
Because it's not sexy. It's people don't want to do it,
I'm
right?
not
So
sexy.
no, what
I
you're
wear my
saying,
glasses.
what you are saying is not right. Like
It's
people don't
not.
want to hear that, you know.
It's not.
So like it's not gonna get traction for sure. Like agents are gonna scroll past that so fast. It's faster than they could, you know,
Yeah, but
dial a
those,
number.
to your point,
Listing.
those aren't my customers. Because the thing is, the people that scroll past, they're not buying anything. They're just looking for free information. They're just looking for that little
Yeah,
caffeine hit,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. Something
of
that makes them
information.
feel better, right, about themselves. Like, oh,
Exactly.
I dropped the reel today, so he's talking about dropping reels, so yeah, I'm doing something right.
But I mean, I honestly, I truthfully, I feel sorry for them. I truthfully feel sorry for them, and that's the reason probably I'm overly boisterous with expressing our viewpoints on this, because I don't want them to fail, and I don't want them to suffer needlessly. And if they have little kids, I don't want them to not have money to pay for their Christmas presents, and I don't want them to have all of the shitty life that comes from listening to bad coaches and trainers and taking bad advice. Because it's like when you're landing a plane and you're 30,000 feet up, and you're trying to pick out the runway. If you're 1 degree off, you're going to end up complete step. And life is too short. How old are you?
35.
Okay, it's 35. So do you remember how dumb you were just 5 years ago?
Oh yeah, really dumb.
Okay, really dumb, right? How about 5 years before that? Like super dumb, right?
Yeah, super dumb.
Okay, most people stop learning when they're about 30, and they just keep on perpetuating with the level of intelligence that they had when they were 30 for their entire lives. They never change, they never evolve, they never think. And if someone got into the real estate business and they were inundated with all of these people trying to sell them marketing and branding and all the rest of it, they never had any time to explore other pathways to building sustainable businesses. That's what breaks my heart, because they're failing out of the business or struggling in the business, and they don't have to. They're fantastic following really dumb ideas.
No, I'm running out of time here, but I gotta ask you these questions, so I'm gonna have to go right in it. You and Julie, like, you have built the authority in the marketplace, right? Like whether it is in the real estate business or in the real estate coaching side, you could build your own brokerage where agents will follow, team leaders will follow, other brokers would follow. Why did you choose to be part of this company? What drew you to this model, and how has it aligned with your coaching philosophy so far?
The last part of your question is the most relevant one. It aligns with our coaching philosophy perfectly, because the thing that really turned me on about EXP was soliciting Julie and I since Glenn started in 2008, and we just weren't ready for the message. It was never a bad message, just we weren't ready for it. And just from a personal perspective, we had a lot of corporate enterprise style, we had relationships with brokerages that we were fearful we'd lose those relationships with brokerages. And we did lose some relationships with brokerages when we aligned with EXP. But the reason ultimately is because, having been in the industry for a long period of time, I learned that there are very few agents that can ever retire from real estate. And it's not because they're not, again, the people are fantastic. A vast majority of them, 99.9%, are really good, honest entrepreneurs that just are trying to take care of themselves and their family and do good in their communities. Really, really good people. But what happens is the ups and the downs in the market and some bad business decisions now and then cause them to blow through their savings. And I saw that, and Julie and I see that, because we see behind the curtain with some of these guys. Some of these biggest names in real estate have been some of our coaching clients. And, you'd never guess that some of them are basically robbing Peter to pay Paul, living off equity from investment properties, long ago pilfered their kids' college, savings accounts, all these things. And it's always because they keep it's what I said earlier. They keep trying to perpetuate they didn't quit. They kept doing what wasn't working for too long before they were willing to pivot. So they tried to make the big this and the teamwork and the branding work and spending all this money on this and all this money on that. Now I'm going to wait it out. The market's going to come back my way, versus actually learning a more profitable way to do the business. So what I loved about EXP was Glenn's a true entrepreneur. That's for damn sure. He's wicked smart. Glenn has a really powerful, strange way of being able to see into the distance, more so than probably almost anyone I've ever met before. And he can take information and he can package it in such a way mentally, like that like if you talk with him, you'll realize what he's thinking about. And I mean, he honestly, that he inspired me, obviously, but the biggest reason was revenue share. If there was no revenue share, EXP without revenue share, EXP is just another online brokerage. That's it. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Because the revenue share creates opportunities for people to retire. It creates opportunities for people. And that's really what hooked me, is when I started to think about our coaching clients, and I've seen, well, they have some rental properties, but they're like 55, going to be 60. And I'm thinking, well, what are you going to do? How's that person actually ever going to do anything other than just basically go on listing appointments forever? They're not. And so the idea that so let's say, for example, your personal monthly overhead was $10,000 a month. So if you had $10,000 a month coming in passively from revenue share, you technically would be rich. And Julie and I's definition of rich is where your money works for you and you no longer have to work for your money. It doesn't have to be some huge net worth. If you have passive income that's truly not dependent on the sweat of your brow, you are by definition rich. Well, you tell me another freaking way to do that other than revenue share. There isn't. Rental properties, Julie and I have dozens of them. Absolutely not passive. Right? Not passive. What we, if we had to do it all over again, we had EXP as an opportunity versus buying rental properties. We started buying in 93. Would we buy them? No, we wouldn't. Honestly, we wouldn't. We would have invested in our revenue share group and the S&P 500. That's what we would have done. And but the fact is that EXP's revenue share. Oh, there's all these clones of EXP. There aren't. The revenue share programs aren't the same. I mean, Glenn's not dumb. He knows exactly where his bread is buttered.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. And look at the people that EXP attracts. So what honestly closed the deal for me mentally and emotionally was when Julie and I went to a EXP event. This is when we were living in Austin. We were driving up from San Antonio, and we are driving on the toll road. Speed limit is like 85. I don't know if you've ever been to Austin before. The real speed limit is like 80 for a while. Okay, so we're driving up and Julie's asking me what I thought, and I was still hesitant. And Julie was in the passenger seat. Then she's a coach, right? So she knew how to manipulate me. So she said, well, so, why are you a real estate coach? And I said, well, it's because I really, truly enjoy helping people, accomplish their goals and all the rest of it. And she said, so is part of that helping them accomplish their financial goals? Well, of course. She said, well, then aren't you a hypocrite? This is what she said. Aren't you a hypocrite for not wanting them to be an EXP? Now that right? I know it's fun though, but now that you know that EXP creates a financial, future for them that they wouldn't most likely be able to create on their own. And that was it. I mean, because she was right. By the time we got home, I was like, yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously I have no choice. Otherwise I'm just a hypocrite, and I couldn't live with that. So we joined EXP. And since then, I've seen so many people who are longtime coaching clients, new people. Well, obviously our group's almost 4,000. I've seen all these people that have come into Libertas, our group, and they've created financial independence for themselves. And maybe they live in some place rural and it's $3,500 or $5,000 a month, or maybe it's a big city and it's $25,000 a month. But talking to somebody, like if you have $10,000 a month coming in, that means you basically have an equivalent of $1 million in the S&P 500 that's paying a 10% dividend, right? That's basically before taxes. So we know people that are making, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a month from revenue share. Yeah. And so you'd have to have like 50 million, $100 million invested in the people are never going to do that. Yeah. I mean, that's the perfect revenue share. Yeah. So, I mean, the people, the ethos, the mindset, the leadership, and, I mean, I couldn't realize. I still don't see there's any real true competitor to EXP. I just don't.
So last question, I promise. Last question, okay? I know we're way over time, but where do you see with the real estate industry going, right? Like EXP paved the way right now with the technology, AI, and the shift in the marketplace. And I know you're an old school coach, so you're gonna.
Oh no! Julie and I have 100,000 people on YouTube, 20,000 people.
No. I mean your mindset, not like what you do.
No, if you mean but see, that's what the younger people are trying to do to compete with Julie and I. They're trying to say we're old school and trying to pigeonhole us. And that's bullshit, because the reality of it is that the primary focus of what we're teaching agents to do is build profitable businesses. And if building a profitable business is old school, I'm guilty. But it's proactive lead generation reinforced by passive lead generation. Proactive is doing the real work of real estate, reinforced with the social media and the branding and the marketing. But if you have to do one, only do the proactive.
Proactive. Yeah. No, that's not what I meant. I meant like your philosophy of life, right? You're gonna bring here, and that's the wisdom I'm trying to get out of this question. Is that with everything that's happening in the industry, with the different business models coming about, right? The copycats and all that stuff, right? Like everything going into cloud, like all across all industry, right? Like how do you see that impacting real estate in the next 5 to 10 years? And what's your advice to agents? What should they be focusing on? Because there's so much shiny object, right? What should they be focusing on to prepare for that future?
The only thing that's going to differentiate you in the future is basically, it's not going to be your marketing and branding, because you and I have just, I think we beat to death the idea that you're going to be able to be an influencer in real estate, because everyone's going to be an influencer in real estate. I think it's true. So really, ultimately, if the real cutting through all the BS, it's being a listing agent. It is. It's just being a listing agent. Well, I'm my market's most dominant brand. Well, that's fine. But if you're not a listing agent, you're not going to basically control that market share, because ultimately what we're going to see is commission compression and other forms of business models that are going to go in that are going to start encroaching in on the buyer side of the business even more than it already has. So the way you differentiate yourself is going to basically be focusing on being a listing agent. But you're asking me a broader question, like, so everyone is expecting you to be less agents, and I don't think that's true. I think it's the exact opposite is true. I think there's actually going to be more agents. People say, well, when the economy is rough, people get out of real estate. That's not true. I've heard people say that too. And Julie and I, what we did is we went back and we looked at the membership of NAR compared to the population. What percent of the population were realtors in 1977? We're 67 back when there were big recessions. And what percent are realtors now? And it's clear that when the money gets tight, people look for side hustles, one of which is real estate. So to say a recession runs people out of real estate, it's not true. More people get into the business. I think more agents are going to get into the business because people your age and younger have grown up on a steady stream. Like when Julie and I got into real estate, it wasn't a desirable career path. It was something that basically, it was a fallback to the fallback to the fallback. Nobody grew up wanting to be a real estate agent. That's not true with your generation. You guys grow up wanting to be real estate agents. It's
fantasizing at night in our dreams.
Yeah, but it's amazing. Honestly, it's amazing. Okay, so the next thing, you got to look at demographics is often overly, abused as far as being a market predictor. But I think it's so obvious to me, should be to everybody. Are there more people or less people that want to buy homes into the future? More people. Will there be more homes or less people? Yeah, so you have more people that want to get into real estate. More people want to buy real estate. You have baby boomers who are going to downsize. You have, all these things, right? I cannot honestly see a single reason not to be incredibly optimistic about being in the real estate industry. Not one. And I wouldn't worry at all about competition from AI or from different startups, because all they're really doing is just rehashing things that have already been tried. Everything, when you're young, everything is new because your perspective of history is only while you've been alive. If you actually go past that by like 100 years, or even go back to like ancient history, you'll find parallels to what's happening now in politics and social issues. None of this stuff is new. Not a damn thing that we're dealing with is new. It's all the same over and over again.
Every 100 years repeats itself.
Basically. So smart people, what they do is they look back into history and they realize what the macro trend is probably. Macro trend right now is America's winning. It's going to continue to win. Homeownership is going to continue to be the core part of the American dream. You're going to see, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that until mortgage products, catch up with people's ability to make payments and interest rates drop and supply increases, you're definitely going to see a lot of people that are going to have to put off buying homes. The average age of someone buying a home now is older than you. It's in their late 30s. What 10 years ago it was in their late 20s. I mean, that's problematic. It is. Because, all kinds of reasons. But long story short, the sheer number of transactions that have to happen over the next 10 or 20 years, combined with the, people wanting to be in real estate, we're just in the right place at the right time. It's an incredible industry to be part of. It's the core. There's never been a recession that, whether we're in one or not, who knows? I'm not speculating, but there's never been a improving economy that did not start with housing, right? And so you're going to see after this next presidential cycle, you're going to see all of a sudden, they're already started. They're going to all talk about housing, and you're going to see all like this commission sharing lawsuit thing. that's just a guideline. And if you don't want to be part of that guideline, you don't have to be part of the MLS. If your broker's part of the MLS, you don't have to be part of that broker. And that's what's going to start creating pressure inside the various, powers that be to relitigate that. And so that's not over, So all these things that people are so worried about, the number, if I were 35 and I were thinking about where to put my best energies, I'd focus on being a listing agent, knowing how to actually do proactive lead generation, building my listing inventory, keep my listing inventory to whatever, 10 listings or 20 listings at all times. Your new job is just to replace them when they sell, have a little staff that basically keeps them, manages them when they're in contract. You can work normal hours. You don't have to work on the weekends. You can delegate, refer off all your buyers for whatever referral fee the market will pay. And then that's your business. And that is a long-term sustainable business.
Wow. Love it. It's been real, Tim. I appreciate you keeping it real 100%. And it's very clear that you do keep it real in your coaching business. So anyone out there that's looking for help, reach out to Tim and Julie. And Tim, it's a pleasure having you. Looking forward to collaborate with you in the future.
Yeah, let's talk about the AI thing after.
Yeah,
cool.
I'll send you a message. Okay.
All right, good.
All
Thanks,
right.
everyone.
All right, take care.
Bye.